Adrien Broner versus Amir. I'm fans of both guys. Let me start by saying, part of me hopes this fight doesn't happen. I'm a big Adrien Broner fan. I think he's a real talent. But for me, he's not a 147 pounder. Broner's power doesn't translate at 147 pounds. I feel his performances have been much better in the lower weight classes. At 147, he laboured to beat Paulie Malignaggi in very controversial fashion. He got destroyed by Marcus Maidana. He's not an elite level 147 pounder, and I believe he can be an elite level 140 pounder. So purely on the basis that I'm an Adrien Broner fan, I don't think it's best for Adrien Broner's career and his future that this fight occurs, because one would assume it would be at 147 pounds. Having said that, this fight makes sense for quite a few reasons. Amir Khan is a very big name within boxing. He's been chasing the Floyd Mayweather fight for so long now. And unfortunately for him, because that fight hasn't happened, he's been left somewhat in the wilderness. He's been fighting B, C level opponents like Luis Calasso, like David Alexander. He's been in fights that, whilst I'm sure they've done fairly well, haven't been huge in the public eye. Amir Khan's contingency, if he didn't get the Floyd Mayweather fight, was supposedly to fight Manny Pacquiao. We all know what happened next. Floyd announced his fight against Manny Pacquiao, ruling out the two biggest nights in boxing for Amir Khan. It's bad news for him, and because he's waited around, a lot of the other big names at the division already have fights attached to their heads. You know, we've just saw Keith Thurman fight Robert Guerrero, for example. Kell Brooks now got a fight scheduled. Sean Porter's got a fight scheduled. It's unclear where the obvious fight is for Amir Khan. So if Adrien Broner fight is available, it's understandable that Khan would want to go for that. Broner's beatable, especially at 147 pounds. He's a massive name, and it's a fight that really is going to catch the public's attention. You know, both guys have big profiles, both guys are good talkers. The fight makes a lot more sense from Amir Khan's perspective than Adrien Broner's. But in a sense, it's a fight that could potentially work for both guys because, you know, Broner's been fighting guys like John Molina, Emmanuel Taylor. Khan's been fighting guys like Devin Alexander, Luis Calasso. I mean, we're talking a decent level of opponent here. But we're not talking the huge pay-per-view occasion that I believe Adrien Broner versus Amir Khan could potentially be if built correctly. So in a sense it works for both guys, but I think with the weight issue it probably is going to work more for Khan than Broner. Anyway, putting that aside, let's talk about how the fight would go if it did happen. For me, Adrien Broner was very successful against John Molina because of the way Molina fought the fight. Molina was low volume. Molina's movement was very limited. Molina was very one-dimensional. But let's look at Broner's weaknesses. What are the weaknesses that can be exploited? I think the first thing is his volume. Sometimes, against opponents who offer a lot of offensively, Broner can retreat. He's a master defensive boxer and he can kind of retreat into his defensive shell, throwing very low volume, having quite a low punch output. I think there is the potential that a busy fighter could outpoint Broner just by being more active and throwing more volume. I mean, Paulie Malignaggi almost won the Malignaggi-Broner fight simply by being more active with the jab. You know, Malignaggi's work that night was a lot less eye-catching, but he won multiple rounds on all the judges' scorecards, in my opinion, purely on the basis of activity. So that's issue one, is volume. Issue 2 is the weight. For me, Broner doesn't have the punch resistance at 147. He doesn't hit as hard at 147. He's not as effective against bigger men. Now, for me, both of these issues play in to Amir Khan's strengths. Amir Khan is a very eye-catching, volume-punching guy. He attacks in bursts. He's got tremendous hand speed, as we know. He throws a lot of punches. He's very active. He's a volume fighter. For me, he has the combination of eye-catching, effective work and high-volume activity, which could be the kryptonite for a guy like Adrien Broner. Broner relies, even though he doesn't have the volume, his work is more eye-catching, more effective. Example, Broner Malinaji. But I think against Amir Khan, not only would Broner suffer in the volume department, but Amir Khan's work would be at least equally eye-catching with Khan's flashy hand speed and combinations. Secondly, the weight. Amir Khan's big issue is his chin, supposedly. But for me, he's appeared to have slightly better punch resistance at 147. And I think Broner's power dynamic dissipates when we talk about 147 pounds. I think that weight division plays so much into Khan's hands, with Broner's apparently decreased power and Khan's apparently increased punch resistance. What does Broner do well? Obviously, he's an elite level defensive fighter. He's also got an excellent jab. But to me, he can be outmoved. And I think with Khan's movement, with Khan's speed around the ring, combined with the fact that Khan is a very rangy guy who can throw jabs from long distance, I think there's the possibility here that Broner could be outgunned on the outside with the jab. He could be outmoved by Khan's footwork. He could be out-volumed by Khan's output. And I don't think Broner's work will be more eye-catching when you consider how attractive Khan's combination punching and Khan's speed is. Where does Broner have an advantage? It's defensively. But if we're thinking that Broner may not have the power and Khan may have the increased resistance at 147 to stay the distance, then being an elite defensive fighter, whilst extremely important, isn't going to be enough on its own to win the rounds. For me, stylistically, this is all wrong for Adrien Broner. I pick Amir Khan in that fight. I think Khan outpoints Adrien Broner. I think he outworks him. And I really think that the way Khan moves, the way he throws punches in bunches, it's all wrong for Adrien Broner. Adrien Broner, in my opinion, would be much better off concentrating at 140. The guys at 147, Pacquiao, Mayweather, Furman, Brook, Khan, they're skilled fighters. They tend to be more boxers than punchers, more boxers than brawlers. The big names at 140, Garcia, Matisse, Provodnikov, yes, all of those guys hit very, very hard. But Broner, being an excellent defensive fighter and being a technician, for me, he has the potential to shine more at 140 stylistically than against the big names at 147. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts.